I was born to be a change maker, but growing up in Montana, I never envisioned that I would one day make history by co-authoring and helping pass groundbreaking reforms on the federal, state, and local level. If I can do it, you can do it. You don't even have to travel to Washington, D.C. to make an impact. In fact, the most important change you can make is in your own backyard. That's because the decisions made at the local level directly influence our day-to-day lives, from drinking water and waste disposal to public safety and parks. Imagining our common future is the theme of today's event. No matter your background or political beliefs, democracy is a topic that unites all of us. The concept dates back to the 15th century. Cultures around the globe have practiced democracy in some form or fashion for nearly 600 years. Here in America, our government is a representative democracy. That means we, the people, elect peers who best represent us. Unfortunately, voters often feel forced to choose between the lesser of two evils. Why is that? It's because average, everyday citizens, people like you and me, rarely run for public office. And when we do, we're often up against established politicos with a war chest of funding. And yet, if not you, then who? If not me, who should it be? Representation matters. If people like you and me opt out of public service, we will keep being represented by out-of-touch politicians who have little in common with the rest of us. So, how do we, the people, get more involved? There are two primary forces at work in most successful campaigns: time and money. Money is a renewable resource. We can always earn more, but all the money in the world can't buy more time. Once it's gone, time can never be replaced. And while the value of money decreases over time, the value of time never changes. So for anyone who believes you must be wealthy to participate in democracy, I'm here to share why time is the most valuable asset you can contribute. Nearly all of us have a power to make an impact in a matter of minutes simply by exercising our right to vote. It's one small act, but it's the single most influential thing you can do to tip the balance of power. Your vote is a valuable commodity. Like time, it can't be bought, traded, or sold. You have the chance to make an impact in nearly every race on every ballot, from judicial and school board candidates to local initiatives, bonds, and mill levies. The elections that make the biggest difference in our everyday lives are those closest to home. And even when we don't like the options presented, we must exercise our right to vote. Together, we can collectively shift the paradigm at the polls. Whether you run for office, support someone who does, or simply vote your values, each and every one of us can do something, and we must get active if we want to see the political climate improve. So just like many people shop local, consider voting local. Have you ever met the candidate? What do you know about them? Is it someone you might run into the store or someone you've only seen in ads on TV? Do you know how they'll vote on issues that matter to you? Will they meet with you to learn more and exchange ideas? Accessibility is fundamental to representative democracy. We must get to know the people who represent us and let them get to know us. Public comment and written testimony are not the first and only time elected officials should hear from us. Call them on the phone. Invite them to your neighborhood block party. Meet with them one-on-one. Ask for their help. Politicians are a lot of things, but mind readers isn't one of them. Elected officials don't know what we want and need if we don't tell them. Now, if you're going to bring a problem to their attention, be ready to offer a solution. And if you're going to make an ask, first be sure you know what it is that you want. You do not need to have all the answers. It's okay to say, I don't know for sure. Let me find out and get back to you. Then do exactly that. This is how we lay the foundation for lasting relationships built on trust and mutual respect. And in a labyrinth of marble hallways, it's your relationships that will help you stand out from a crowd. Not a position paper, talking points, or a handout. Those things are helpful, but they're not what people remember at the end of a long day. Now, if you take the time and energy to do this, and an elected official brushes you aside, don't be afraid to vote accordingly when they run for re-election. Never underestimate your impact at the polls. You have as much power to vote someone out of office as you have to vote them in. And while electoral politics do play an important role in representative democracy, the real work begins once the ballots are cast and representatives are sworn in. Direct advocacy is where new laws are written and better policies are born. Typically, change is brought about one of two ways. Highly paid lobbyists who represent special interests play a role, but equally important is the role of citizen lobbying. People like us going into the halls of power and leaving our mark. Sticking with the shop local, vote local concept, I'm going to highlight some examples of successful campaigns on a local level to better illustrate how you can make an impact. How you can make an impact. The first example is creation of an Energy and Conservation Commission. This effort would not have succeeded without the bold leadership of Billings City Council member Penny Ronning. I say this not only to give credit where credit is due, but to reinforce the importance of building relationships with decision makers. The Energy and Conservation Campaign began with a partnership between 3 like-minded and civically engaged organizations. With strong partnerships, we begin to tip the balance of power. Another winning strategy was the group's early commitment to use non-polarizing language. Some phrases just naturally stoke controversy, and climate change is one of those. And so while many partners wished to address matters head-on, everyone ultimately agreed on the need to depolarize the topic. And that's how the term energy cost savings was born. After all, who is willing to argue against the notion of saving money on energy costs? From there, as a group, we were ready to grow our knowledge. We solicited input from stakeholders with varying backgrounds and viewpoints, and by identifying shared values and focusing on common ground, we forged lasting alliances and turned opponents into allies. Next, we did our research. We wanted to better understand what had already been done so we could more effectively map out a clear path forward. We toured the landfill and water treatment plant. We sought feedback from Parks Board and city staff. We analyzed successful models elsewhere. Together, we collectively grew more knowledgeable, allowing us to make informed decisions and develop well-rounded recommendations. And rather than reinventing the wheel, our group replicated what's been proven to work. So instead of writing a resolution from scratch, we modeled our proposal after other city boards and commissions. And using existing language as a template, we were able to simply tweak the format and wording to suit our needs. Now, we did make some important distinctions to ensure progress and offer the city a roadmap to follow. Applicants were required to have experience and a demonstrated interest in energy and conservation. We clearly defined the scope, outlining benchmarks and deliverables. The duration was limited, with the initial resolution sunsetting in 4 years. This fostered a sense of urgency that helped prevent analysis paralysis. And perhaps most importantly, we set an expectation for delivery of a comprehensive action plan with specific goals, objectives, measurables, and a timeline for completion. In the end, our diligent work was rewarded. The City Council approved our resolution on a 10-to-1 vote, with just 1 lone member in opposition. Now, the results produced by the Commission were honestly beyond our imagination. According to a local economic development organization, the city saves an estimated $815,000 per year in electrical costs alone. Our collective work as a community has truly paid off, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. Now, the next example I want to share is similar in a lot of ways, but it does tend to stoke more controversy. Policing in America. It would be disingenuous to suggest that I don't have strong opinions. And while my lived experience may be different than yours, I genuinely hope we can all agree that public safety takes all of us. Everybody working together for the common goal of a safer society. Not only safer for the elite or even the working class, but safer for those on the fringes, people with mental health challenges, a criminal background or history of substance use, those without the privilege of a roof over their heads. For years now, constituents have been writing their local leaders demanding action, and the calls for reform reached a tipping point with the tragic and senseless murder of George Floyd. Like Minneapolis and many other communities in America, Billings has struggled with rising crime. This is due in part to a growing population, but also due to our role as a regional hub for medical care, retail services, and transportation of goods. Unfortunately, an influx of economic activity is often accompanied by unsavory elements like human trafficking, exploitation, violence, and abuse. Citizens have also expressed concern about the number of deadly shootings by law enforcement in the Billings area. 18 people lost their lives between 2012 and 2020, and more than half of those killed were people of color, primarily our Native American residents. At one point, Billings was second to only one other similar-sized city in the nation for deadly police shootings. Ready for a new approach, community members joined together with law enforcement and local leaders to explore the need for a citizen police advisory board. Now, there were several recurring themes seen previously with the energy cost savings plan, but now we had a recipe for success. Solidifying partnerships once again proved essential. Again, Councilmember Ronning stepped up, ready and willing to lead policy discussions and introduce a bill. Our police chief has been a consistent participant, adding a critical component to the conversation. We spoke with law enforcement in other communities to learn from their successes and failures. We even partnered with Van Jones and Dream Corps for a nationwide day of empathy, hosting a virtual town hall meeting to gain insight from divergent viewpoints. And as before, stakeholders shared a commitment to learning as a group, researching existing approaches and analyzing the available information. We explored the Cahoots model in Eugene, Oregon, along with programs in cities like Omaha and Boise, examining what might work in our own community. And the police chief outlined the actions that had already been taken, such as policies to address chokeholds, firing at moving vehicles, de-escalation, use of force, and less lethal alternatives. And just like the Energy Cost Savings Campaign, our group identified 4 clearly defined goals: workplace recruitment, retention and diversity, data collection and analysis, community support and engagement, and crime prevention and diversion. We then replicated the use of subject matter experts and again utilized a time-limited 4-year approach to propel forward momentum. And using the same strategy developed to create an Energy and Conservation Commission, our resolution to establish a Citizen Police Advisory Board also passed with a 10-to-1 vote. 10 city council members on both sides of the aisle, in agreement with citizens and the police chief on an issue as controversial as policing. Progress begins where our values align. It turns out almost anything is possible when you identify a common goal, collaborate as a community, and bring evidence-based solutions to the table. This recipe for success applies to almost any change you could hope to accomplish. We used this strategy again in 2022 to help convince City Council to fund a project to shelter unhoused neighbors during one of the coldest winters in recent memory. For a cost of less than $1,000 per person, we not only provided a warm, safe, and dry place to sleep at night for more than 200 people with nowhere else to turn, we saved the city and its partners millions in the process. And around the same time, the Citizen Police Advisory Board was officially established, and in March, I was elected to serve as its chair. As a board, the 7 of us come from very different backgrounds, and we have starkly different political views. But we are all united on the need for the entire community to play an active role to improve public safety. And that's where you come in. The Citizen Police Advisory Board just launched a new public education campaign focused on community safety. Safety is actually an acronym designed to remind people about all of the ways that we can help make our community safer. And if you don't live in Billings, simply take these ideas to your local police department or your city leadership and ask them to implement something similar. It really is as easy as that. There is no wrong way to get involved, but you must get involved. A mountain gets moved one rock at a time. Slow progress is still progress. But democracy is a verb. It's an action word. It requires us to speak up even when it's not popular, because our voice is as powerful as our vote. Start in your own backyard. Plant the seeds of change, water them often, and watch as they sprout. If we all watered our own backyards, doing the best that we can with the resources we have, imagine what the world could look like. Thank you for your time.